So here we're going to finish the fraction portion. We've done decimals to fractions and decimals to percent. So now we're going to do fractions. First, we'll change a fraction to a decimal. And then we'll change a fraction to a percent here. To change a fraction to a decimal, you divide the numerator, which is the top number, by the denominator, which is the bottom number. So the numerator goes inside the house, the denominator goes outside the house. So a way to remember that is bottoms go in the outhouse. So if we had the fraction 4/5, 4 goes inside the house, the 5 goes outside the house. Now you will see this does not go. Put a decimal and some zeros. Go ahead and bring that decimal up. And when you look at 5 into 40, you can put yourself a 0 here to remind yourself that it won't go into 4. 5 will go into 40 exactly 8 times. And we're done. So 4/5 as a decimal is 0.8 or 8/10. And if you wanted to, you could say 8/10 is 4/5 equal to 8/10. Yes, it is. If we had the fraction 4/6, 4 goes inside the house, 6 goes outside the house. 6 will not go into 4, so put a 0 there. 6 will go into 40. Go ahead and bring your decimal up. It will go 6 times. And 6 times 6 is 36. 40 minus 36 is 4. Bring down that 0. 6 into 40. That will go 6 times. And 6 times 6 is 36. And when you subtract those, you get 4. And then you bring down another 0. 6 into 40. I think I've done that before. I see a pattern. This one will actually turn into a repeating 6. So 4/6 as a decimal is 0.6 repeating, or 6 repeating tenths. If we had 4 and 1/5, you could go ahead and write 4 is what goes in front of the decimal because it's a whole number. You don't have to include that in your dividing. Then all you've got to do is take this fraction 1/5. The 1 goes inside the house. The 5 goes out house. 5 will not go into 1, so there's a 0 there. 5 will go into 10 exactly 2 times. So 4 and 1/5 as a decimal will be 4 and 2/10. If I had 5/11ths, 5 would go inside, 11 goes outside, 11 will not go into 5. So put a 0 there. The decimal goes to the right. Eleven will go into 50 4 times. 4 times 11 is 44. 50 minus 44 is 6. Bring down a 0. 11 into 60 will go 5 times. And 5 times 11 is 55. 60 minus 55 is 5. Bring down another 0. If you continue on with this, this will show you a repeating 45, 45, 45. So as a decimal, the way we would write that is put a bar over the 4 and the 5. Put a bar over the numbers that repeat for bar notation. Now, something that has worked for previous students excuse me, is the hokey pokey. And I'm out of room here, so I'm going to turn it over to here. You put the numerator in, you put the denominator out. You put the numerator in, and put a decimal. You write 3 zeros and divide it all out. That's what it's all about. Now what's particularly delightful about this is that we can also do motions. So if we pretended that the top half of our body was a numerator, we could put it inside the house. And if we pretended that the lower half of our body is the denominator, we could put it outside the house. So that's kind of fun if you want to do that with your students. Makes it a little more memorable about how to turn a fraction into a decimal. If you were to use a calculator, it's pretty much the same thing. The numerator goes inside the calculator first. Put the numerator first. Then you're going to use your divide button. Then the denominator. And then your equal button. And then you're done. So let's go back to turning a fraction to a percent. You have some options here. The first option, or one of the options, not necessarily the first option could be to turn it into a decimal. And then from there, turn that decimal to a percent. So then we would multiply by 100. and then put a percent sign. You have that option. So with the 4/5, we've already turned it into 8/10 over here. And then from there, I could say, if I wanted to multiply by 100, that would be 80%. So these three guys are actually equal to each other. 4/5 is the same as 8/10, which is also the same as 80%. That's one option. A second option, and it's just good to have these options in your math tool belt, because sometimes one option is going to work better than the other. Your second option is to use equivalent fractions. So if you're familiar with how equivalent fractions work, this would be a great option for you. So 4/5, 100 is going to be your denominator, because percent is always out of 100. You can put a P here for the percent. And you can say, what did I do to 5 to get to 100? Oh, I multiplied by 20. So then I do the same thing to 4, the numerator, to keep it an equivalent fraction. And that would say P is 80. The only thing that's missing is 80%.